In this video, I want to talk about who exactly is Dr. Ava Jansen in the storyline of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, but not only that, how it may pertain and connect to the future zombie storyline, and yet what we have not seen yet unfold in the storyline of Call of Duty 2024 Zombies in the 90s. And before I get into the storyline information, I want to let you know that this video has been kindly sponsored by U4GM, which is a professional COD boosting website. They won't mod your account, they'll simply hop on your account and manually be able to unlock camos for you if you want to grind out Borealis camo, or if you want to unlock schematics, but you just don't have the time. They can get any item in the game for you. You can check out the link in the description and use code TGR for 5% off anything. With that said, let's continue with the video. Modern Warfare 3 Zombies' first season is well underway, and at the time of this video's release, we've been introduced to a large new cast of characters in the Zombies universe. However, one character in particular has sparked my interest, and the interest of many in the community, and that is why I began working on this video. Like I said, today I want to discuss Dr. Ava Jansen, her past, her motivations, and hopefully even take a guess at her future. The story has continuously propped her up as important while giving us subtle clues, and sometimes outright answers to mysteries from her past to help us understand why. Ava is initially introduced to us in Act 1 as a scientist that was brought on by Zakhaev under the guise he was a wealthy CIO to study Ethereum and interdimensional activity. She worked for him and Terminus Outcomes until being extracted by Deadbolt after reaching out to them. She then figured out that Zakhaev's motives were not as they seemed and hid messages to lead Deadbolt to her throughout Act 1. Once she is extracted and returned to Deadbolt's HQ for interrogation, we truly begin to learn more about her. We learn a lot about Ava through this interrogation cutscene, but also through Act 2 and 3 missions and intel radios that feature her as well, and we will very quickly begin to understand that she is far and above the leading mind in modern day Ethereum science. She is unparalleled in her field and is a natural born genius. However, she also seems to carry some darker secrets as well. During the Act 2 cutscene, after the test run of her device, a large ether storm begins to form. As this takes form, she grabs her head and is very clearly in pain. When Ravenov noticed and asked her what is wrong, she explains that it's just a migraine and will pass. Upon closer inspection of the cutscene, however, we can see that this is not the truth. The pills she takes to ease her pain are called clozapine. According to the American National Institute of Health, clozapine is an FDA-approved atypical antipsychotic medication for treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Clozapine is not the first-line drug of choice due to its range of adverse effects, making compliance an issue for many patients. This essentially means it is only prescribed to people who have had schizophrenia for a long time, and most other treatments seem to do nothing for them. To me, this means that her schizophrenia is likely related to the Dark Aether, and is not simply a disorder that can be treated. She probably doesn't even have schizophrenia, she just appears to be inhibiting symptoms of it due to some sort of Dark Aether exposure. Another affirming piece of information for this is the consistent communication that the entity has with Ava. While it does also speak to the strike team while in the Dark Aether, so far Ava has been the only person to consistently get messages or visions from the entity while outside the Dark Aether. This suggests a connection between Ava and the entity. This seems obvious, the struggle comes with explaining what exactly this connection is. She says her dreams of the entity started during childhood. She felt a strong sense of familiarity towards it. During this childhood, she was raised by foster parents who are ex-National Intelligence, ex-CIA. She said it was during this time in a biology class in 2006, a blood test revealed that her parents weren't biologically related to her. So she was adopted with a previously anonymous mother who likely has some kind of connection to the CIA, considering that her foster parents are. Now, before I continue with the rest of the information, I want to give a spoiler warning, as I'm about to discuss data mined and unreleased intel. If you would prefer to only take in the information as Trek deem it appropriate to give it to us, feel free to click off this video now. The thing is though, this intel is about to release, most likely very soon, either with Season 1 Reloaded or with Season 2, but people managed to find it in the files of the game before it actually released. The intel in discussion is not currently found in game, but can be data mined from the game files. While this means information in the radio is subject to change and is not 100% confirmed, the information is important enough to discuss that it cannot be had without acknowledging it. And the only reason I'm discussing it is because, like I said, it's kind of impossible to discuss who is Ava Jansen without talking about this radio, because it pertains exactly to the other radio that talks about the fact she is adopted and her foster parents are in the CIA, and this intel has also become very widespread, and now that it's out there, everyone kind of already knows about it. And to be honest, if you learn about this radio through data mined information, or if you listen/read it when it is officially added, it's not really going to change how you experience it for the first time, if you get what I'm saying. For example, of course, if an Easter egg ending cutscene is leaked and you just get the dialogue but not the visuals, that's going to spoil that experience. Or if you get Easter egg steps leaked before the Easter egg is added, that's going to ruin your experience. But with the radio, whether you hear it early or on release, it's going to be the exact same outcome. And like I said, it's not too far out from releasing anyways, so if you are cool with taking in this information, then let's move forward. But we learn from this leaked intel, after searching for her birth certificate, she found a CD-ROM containing research done by Elizabeth Gray, her apparent real mother, according to her adoptive parents. In time, the more she learned via Gray's research, the less she was driven by resentment, but rather to exceed her mother's work. She continued her studies with an emphasis in Ethereum as a renewable and sustainable free energy, writing her PhD thesis paper, Alternative Dimensions, Worlds Within Worlds. This is the key thing that drove her to study physics. And this is so cool. I really like how they tie Modern Warfare 3 Zombies and what we saw in Cold War Zombies as well as the 90s game together and stringing things a lot more connected than what we saw with Vanguard Zombies, where there was very loose connections. This way there's a direct tie. If the controversy received in the academic world wasn't enough, she would at some point go public with her ideas, publishing an online talk titled Ethereum, a Thought Experiment. Her reputation in the mainstream became that of a quack scientist and an utter charlatan, with Ethereum being seen as a fringe conspiracy. Despite this, she continued her work driven by passion. In 2016, however, the FBI raided Jansen's lab, taking her person and her research into custody. 12 days later, she was free to go, albeit without her research nor her tenure intact. Around the same time, the CIA raided her personal flat, taking her laptop, notebooks, and phone, leaving without saying a word. This would set her research progress back drastically and heavily influence her decision to take Zakhaev's offer later down the line. Knowing the role she's played in this, she offers to help bring down Zakhaev. Deadbolt accepts using Dr. Strauss's research. Jansen begins construction of a new Ethereum neutralizer once completed Deadbolt tests in the field, realizing it needs upgrading to take out Terminus's refined Ethereum. During the testing of the upgraded neutralizer, the veil is pierced, and Jansen encounters the entity. A connection is formed and or deepened, her eyes turning purple briefly and the entity speaking through her. During the team's own encounter with the entity in Act 4, she experiences a Dark Aether episode, her eyes turning purple and hallucinating. In this vision, she kills Ravenov by slitting his throat, only to wake up still on her laptop and being contacted by Ravenov. This could be a vision of the future and Ravenov be heading for his doom, potentially. Or was this simply wild hallucinations brought on by exposure to Ethereum and potentially schizophrenia? But to be honest, I think we should just remove schizophrenia from this discussion, because even if she's experiencing symptoms, this could be just brought on by, like I said, exposure to the Dark Aether that could be entirely separate from that diagnosis. And it's not really fair to those who actually suffer with schizophrenia to draw those parallels, I would say. I would argue the likelihood is that these visions are genuine and contain warnings for the future. We saw that the Forsaken's vision of the heads of Requiem all dead has come true in Modern Warfare Zombies, with all of them deceased in an underground room in Urzikstan. And we know that he was able to contact his daughter Valentina even when she was a child. If Ava as a child was also contacted by the entity, then it is very likely we are seeing similar events play out here. This would mean that the entity and Ava share some sort of deeper connection than we've seen so far, and it seems Ava is the key to entering this world. It would also imply those visions, if somewhat twisted for the entity's purposes, are based in reality. This would put Ravenov in grave danger. I do also wonder if some of the other characters we see are also in danger, because it's not just Weaver that ends up dead at the end, but the rest are all just zombified entities. But of course they're all already dead within that bunker, so it could just be that they're messing with her there. I believe since Ava is also said to be the daughter of Elizabeth Gray, it is possible she does indeed share a connection with the entity. If the entity is indeed Samantha Maxis, like many have been speculated, or at least somewhat related to her, as many in the community currently believe she is, perhaps the love of Gray and Maxis was a strong enough connection that the entity still pursues Ava. As you know, there was some sort of romance going on between Dr. Gray and Maxis. It was heavily implied throughout Cold War Zombies, and that could be one potential way that they bonded together. But I will say, since of course Dr. Gray seemingly had a child after Samantha Maxis was trapped in the Dark Aether, I feel like Maxis is going to be very, very angry at this fact, especially since she has likely corrupted a lot within the Dark Aether, and she's going to probably be furious at Ava for that, I would assume, and put all of the blame on her. Also, did Ava willingly participate in another relationship? Because at the end of Cold War Zombies, of course, the Requiem heads were apprehended by Eddie Richtofen. They were taken to Black Site 13. They were most likely taken to Terminus Island in a prison and laboratory there to be experimented on, which is probably going to be one of the launch maps for COD 2024 Zombies, where Peck is heading to try and rescue them, an island just off the coast of Japan. And if that is the case, I wonder if Dr. Gray was experimented on there. Maybe Eddie was trying to create people with superpowers, because we know Omega Group were trying to do that, for example. And considering all of the Requiem heads were highly exposed to Ethereum, that could be the case, and maybe he forced her to have a child, and that child has ended up being Dr. Ava, Ava, who has these Dark Aether powers. However, we also hear in the beginning of the game a very interesting radio from Barrera. This seemingly innocuous radio log has Barrera dissecting a sample from the Dark Aether in his DNA sequencer. At first, he mentions the corruption of tissue. This leads into discussion of how the Dark Aether can use naturally occurring nucleic acid analogues to actually clone organic tissue and matter from our reality. This is what leads him into the question that this is important for us right now, and the one I believe holds the key to the mystery of Ava and the entity. Can the Dark Aether corrupt a living person? If the Dark Aether is capable of copying and corrupting organic matter, like we've seen with the Mega Abomination appearing multiple times in Cold War Zombies, it was just replicated. Is it possible this could be done on the scale of an entire person? I believe so, and I believe that a dark copy of Ava created by the Dark Aether's matter cloning abilities is the true entity of the Dark Aether. Why though? I suspect that Ava may have some larger connections to Dr. Grey, well, especially if she's her mother, and perhaps even Samantha Maxis, and her birth may be less natural than we currently know. Like I suggested, maybe Richtofen was experimenting on her, leading to this. And this would be an interesting plot twist to the storyline, because right now most of the community does think it's Samantha Maxis, and if it turns out that it's actually some sort of copy of Dr. Ava, a Dark Aether version, that could be possible, and she's essentially being lured by herself. I mean, we do see within the trailer for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies Season 1, she's entering a portal to the Dark Aether, and maybe she's trying to free this entity, but the entity could just be the Forsaken, for example. We hear he is the announcer in the game for some weird reason, even though he was captured in the containment chamber by Samantha Maxis at the end of Cold War Zombies, and Eddie Richtofen had that taken away, but somehow maybe the Forsaken returned, or maybe Richtofen's using the Forsaken, or something else, or the Forsaken's even being cloned by the Dark Aether. Maybe this entity could actually be some sort of merge between Samantha and Ava in the Dark Aether. I'm not sure, but time will tell. Let me know what you think about Ava Jansen in the comments, and whether or not you agree with the presumptions about her identity that I've made here. I will be having many more storyline videos in the future. It seems like most people aren't really paying attention to the storyline in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, and I think it is unfortunate. There is a lot to speculate here, and they've given a lot of breadcrumbs. I think a big reason as to why people aren't really getting into the storyline is they find the operators a bit generic, and also the radios are scattered around the map. They're not really easy to listen to or find. You can't really listen to them in game without being attacked by zombies, and the map is so large it's so hard to even find them, so they definitely needed some sort of intel system like Cold War Zombies to play them in game. And so far there's only really been a few that have been kind of interesting and hinting at stuff, but most of the storyline stuff is heavily hinting at COD 2024 zombies, or even 2025 zombies that might be set in 2030 or something like that, after the events of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, around that time setting. So there's a lot of storyline set up for the future here, and I'm really excited to learn what is next. So make sure to subscribe, because like I said, almost no one is covering the storyline right now, so I'll be keeping you up to date. We'll be talking more about Samantha Maxis in the future, as well as Richtofen's Project Janus, and that Terminus Island launch map as well. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.